And as the year 2021 ends, the presidency has briefed Nigerians on its achievement and progress in tackling various issues in the country. According to the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, along with security and economic challenges, the Buhari administration recorded tremendous achievements in many sectors. Joining us now to discuss this is the managing editor of Avalon Daily, Ayodele Lawal Adio. You heard the information minister talking about insecurity being perhaps the biggest challenge for the Buhari administration, and going ahead to list some of this administration's achievements in that regard. What are your reactions, particularly with the new wave of banditry and kidnapping that we experienced in the outgoing year?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Well, I listened to the Minister of Information talk about the laudable achievements, particularly in the security sector. And while there has been a bit of improvement in terms of the, in quote, banditry that seem to be encroaching the forests in the southwest and pockets of the southeast, earlier this year and sometime last year, we've seen a dramatic reduction in those incursions into the forest areas in the southwest and the southeast. And to a large extent, that is largely a collaboration in the southwest, particularly between the Amotekun and the Nigerian security forces. So to that extent, we can say that the insecurity in that area has seen some improvement. We can also say that since we have added a bit of air fire power in the northeast, we've also seen the Nigerian military push back spectacularly on the insurgents in the northeast, and a lot of success has been recorded, especially in recent times. And that our new Tucano jets and the air power has proven quite a turning point in the war in the northeast. To that extent, we can also say there's been quite a bit of improvement in the northeast. However, I do not share the sentiment of the Minister of Information about the improvements that he talks about in the northwestern part of the country, and of course pockets of the north central part of the country. Niger State, for instance, has had several of its villages and several local governments completely under the heat of these bandits. Many would rather call terrorists in that particular area. We've also seen that these bandits and of course some pockets of terrorists have seemed to be a lot daring in places like Sokoto recently, where they have been sporadic and consistent attacks on innocent villages in Sokoto State. We've also seen sustained attacks in Katsina, in Zamfara, and of course in Kaduna State, where these attacks have continued to happen, particularly in the Kaduna-Abuja highway. So while we can see signs of improvement in certain areas in the country, I'll say that as a whole, there hasn't been a marginal improvement, because a lot of people are still dying.
I get the point, Mr. Edu. So a little gain in some area, and they were still battling with the issue in other areas. Very quickly, the minister did mention that the Petroleum Industry Act is perhaps one of the biggest achievements of this administration. That took forever. But with the signing of this document into law comes the burden of implementation. How optimistic are you in that regard?
Well, of course, that's always been our problem in Nigeria, implementation, where the rubber actually meets the road. So we're yet to see, how much work has been done or put into implementing what has actually been signed into law. On paper, actually, it should prove a game changer in our petroleum industry, because it clearly would improve efficiency in the petroleum sector, and of course it would help us maximize many of the revenues that are accrued to that sector. And of course, particularly, that bill dedicates about 3% of running costs to host communities in the Niger Delta, which means billions and billions of naira into communities that have suffered for such a long time, even though they produce this oil. So on paper, it seems like a brilliant piece of legislation. but the details of the devil is in implementation. And we're yet to
Absolutely.
see
The 3% you
how
talked
much-
about is even still highly, protested by members of that community. But it's a good place to live in. Managing Editor, Ayodele Lawal Adio, thank you for talking to us, and compliments of the season to you.
Yeah, thank you. Same to you.
Coming.